Proximo Base, please respond.
Hello everyone, and welcome to a Stasis Lock series we call the Axalon Outpost. This series is where we'll streamline certain choice topics pre-recorded into a concentrated video format exclusive to our YouTube channel. All videos will be kept under 35 minutes to help us stay on point and so you can get all the details in a timely fashion from what we discuss. You can find us on social media in the links in the description below and check out the Beast Wars Society Facebook group where most of the Stasis Lock cast hangs out and talks shop with other Beast Wars fans. And finally, shout out to the Cool Table Network. And with that, enjoy the discussion. Hello everyone and welcome back to another Axalon Outpost, episode 2. I'm going to call this one Where to Start with TransArt, and we're going to kind of go in on TransArt toys as a company, where they started, where they're at now, and where we think they might be going. Also address some kind of fan theories that I've seen on the boards and that I have myself. With me today is Dakota.
Hello.
What's going on, my man?
Just hanging out on this wonderful Sunday afternoon or whatever day people listen to this, watch it and whatever.
So I've added pictures to your chat there, Dakota.
Yeah, I've been looking at them.
Just bring up the first one right away. So the very first TransArt release that I am aware of, anyway.
I'm gonna stop you. It's it was actually the Optimus Primal, the downscaled Ultra Class, remolded Ultra Class version. That was one. Yeah, that, and it was a Lucky Draw Moon. So it was Beast Wars Second Moon, but it was in the Lucky Draw white and blue colors. But they both featured some different moldings. Like the Primal was definitely Robot Masters-ish in size, but they changed up some stuff. Like they changed up the elbows. It looks like they may have added a wrist swivel, perhaps. Otherwise, it has like the little hooks in the back of the shoulder pieces, the shoulder pads that would clip over the peg on the back of the arms for the old Ultra Class toy. And everything else, I'm pretty sure is more or less the same. But yeah, it was the first generation Commander, and it was whatever they called that Beast Wars Second Moon. But it was in Lucky Draw colors, and it they remolded the robot mode feet, and they removed the gimmick, and it was smaller. It was smaller. It wasn't a 1-to-1. So they call it CC01 Chimpanzee and Moon. Yeah. That was the one that at least as far as I know, which I know for sure predated the one that you were going to talk about.
Yeah, because the one I was going to bring up was the small boy Optimal Optimus. That's the first. Yep. That's the first exposure to JX that I.
You mean TransArt?
That was when, TransArt, not JX. That's going to go into a theory I have later, but that was my first exposure to TransArt. Was Chris actually grabbed them. And I didn't even know it existed.
What's really interesting with TransArt's, because there really isn't anything crazy awesome about that little Optimus Primal and Moon that they did. I mean, it was just Robot Masters-ish in size, and that was at a time when the Robot Masters were pretty expensive. Yeah. And the I don't know. I never thought that first release was very impressive, and then we fast forward kind of to this Optimal Optimus. And it has the shoulder cannons that go in and the thigh swivel and
it's all that other more stuff. Impressive.
But the most interesting thing here, at least looking at this picture, and I don't know because I didn't get I didn't get it. I didn't have a need for it. But all the added articulation. But they used the Takara Metals color scheme. You can see with the orange on the knee pads, and then even some of the paint apps and the on the chest, kind of behind the cockpit there, and even in the cockpit. Yep. That's the Takara Metals color scheme, and not the Hasbro Kenner color scheme, which is, to me, that's interesting because they just opted for that. The beast mode, the gorilla chest is slightly different from the Takara scheme, but it's more or less the same, basically.
That's cool. I think that's probably just because what was closest to them, you know what I mean?
Well, that's
one from North America.
what's crazy is like China, if TransArt is indeed based out of China, which I assumed they were, they should have had more of an abundance of the Hasbro Kenner version, because it would have both should have been in their market. That said, I got my Takara Metals Optimal Optimus from China ultimately.
Yeah.
So, you may be right. That may have just been what they had.
Yeah, convenience is a big player in innovation, I guess. I don't know.
But this was kind of like, I don't want to say revolutionary because I think that's too strong of a term, but it was very interesting for the time that it came out. They put all this remold and even downsizing into this Optimal Optimus. And
the improvements that they made too. Like if you look at the feet, even the toes curl up or and tilt. I think the one that Chris had individual articulating fingers. This one, the picture that I'm looking at, doesn't look like it has that. But I remember him saying it had moving fingers. Maybe I'm mistaken for a different version.
Yeah, I'm not sure as far as that goes, but just the feet, the thighs, and the backpack gun and the beast mode head alone was like that warranted enough of like, wow. And just the fact that the cannons could retract into the chest like they did on the show. They made a small show accurate version of the Optimal Optimus. I don't think I would have been mad at all if they would have made that either the size of the original toy or even if they upscale that to Masterpiece. Like I've said time and again that I would prefer that JX do all the Transmetal 2 and Season 3 stuff. But like Optimal Optimus was technically a Transmetal. And if TransArt just wants to blow up that design to a Masterpiece scale, I'm totally fine. I would buy TransArts in a heartbeat,
Yeah, definitely. I could see like this just looks good. And you know what I mean? And like TransArt, like we're going to get to it in a minute, but they've become a little better with their sculpting, like independent sculpting for figures. Like they could do a different head sculpt for this figure that we're looking at right now. It should be on screen and put out the same toy. And that's the beauty of the Transmetals and the Transmetal 2s is they were so faithful to the toys for the most part in the show that, you know what I mean? This could be considered a masterpiece if it was blown up to the right scale. And
I think the Transmetals, yes. The Transmetals 2s, like I hold reserved judgment that the Transmetal 2s were not as accurate as the Transmetals were.
Not
like
all of them, no.
Megatron and Dinobot were pretty close. And granted, there were only 4 of them, right? When you get to Cheetor and Black Arachnia and Tigerhawk even, not so much. Like they're there, what they are, but they're not as accurate as they were to the show.
That's true. That's true. They're a little more accurate than say some of the season 1 counterparts were to their toys, though, which is kind of where I don't know. For me, I've always kind of lumped in Transmetal and Transmetal 2 together because I always separate season 1 from whatever came after. But yeah, I think this would fit in perfectly. If JX isn't to put out an Optimal Optimus, this would be a good stand-in until they do. And if they don't do it at all, then this would just be a good, you know what I mean? If they blew it up, it would work.
Oh yeah, but just the amount of remolding and like added articulation that TransArt adds to their like so far their current quote unquote masterpiece releases. Yeah. If they just, like I said, man, if they want to just work on the Transmetals, I would much prefer JX handle the Transmetal 2s and the Fusors. I think that is where JX can really shine because, like, to me, they have that sculpted texture. Yeah, they have it down. Like, I mean, they're great with it.
And I'm actually curious to see because, like, as far as Transmetal 2s go. There's Megatron, which they've already done, Tigerhawk, which they have in the pipe. I guess you could consider Optimal Optimus a Transmetal 2, just because he's from the 3rd season. But then there's Cheetor, Black Arachnia, Dinobot. Am I missing anyone else? But even still, that's
just it.
That's what, 7 figures? That'll keep them for a while, considering how long it takes them to make figures. But like after that, what do they do?
And that's true. That's why I said I think they should do Fusors. If they do Quick Strike, Quick Strike and Silverbolt. I think that's where they could really, really shine is with Quick Strike and Silverbolt. But I personally, man, like I would still rather just looking at this TransArt Optimal Optimus. I know JX has more or less a plan for Optimal Optimus, but I think if TransArt just kind of came out and was just like, all right, look, here's our masterpiece Optimal Optimus, and it scales with the JX Megatron, like that's it, dude. I'm good. Give it here. I think that would be what I would do. Just looking at this small one, because I mean they really do. They just need to upscale it to where it's masterpiece size, and like that's that.
So looking at this next picture here that I have up, it's the repaint into the Primal Prime, and this one shows the individually articulated finger. So I wasn't mistaken in thinking that I remembered that. Maybe it was just a different version. I don't know how many of them Chris had, but this was interesting to me. I never fell in with like the BotCon or the extra stories and stuff. You're more of a fan of this stuff, but like a Primal Prime repaint was made of their Optimal Optimus. I'm assuming in the same scale as well. They're underscaled. Yep. And it looks good. Like the finish is good. The colors look good. There's the white plastic seems very resin.
It's I mean,
term.
Like, right, but that's naked. More or less like a match to the original toy. Like the original toy kind of had that like ivory, almost white plastic. It wasn't like a bright white. Now, like on the shoulder part, like I'm looking at it in beast mode. Where the big discs kind of plug into the chest. Mm-hmm. I don't know if those hinges were white. I want to say they were black on the original, but it's been so long since I've had it in beast mode that, truth be told, I really just don't know. But otherwise, it looks great. They use the translucent red. I mean, it looks just like the original Primal Prime, which I think was like super hard to find back in the day, if I remember correctly. So and then obviously it's expensive now.
I've actually never seen a Primal Prime like this, like the Optimal Optimus recolor. I've never seen one in person. The only one that I was ever exposed to in the wild was at Toys R Us. They had the Primal Prime deco of the Beast Machines Optimus Primal that sat on the shelf for like a year. And then,
that year of the monkey?
Yeah. That's the only version of the deco that I was ever exposed to. And it was through that I found out, like through you, that this was a thing.
I never saw it as a kid. I never saw this particular toy like as a kid, which I guess it would have released in like 2000 or 2001, somewhere around that area. Yeah. But I never saw it. I didn't know about it, obviously, until I was like an adult and well into collecting. And I found one in box on eBay, and I think it was like $200 or maybe 150. I really don't know. I really can't remember. But I knew I wanted it and I had to have it because like at that point in time, like I was obsessed with the 90s, like BotCon stories and characters and exclusives and things like that. So I was just gobbling everything up.
So now this next one is where I feel that they hit a point where what they were doing, not that it wasn't acceptable, but they knew that they had to make a major step in the right direction. This is their Megatron that they started teasing. They teased some originally sculpted pieces, like the head and the chest.
Which was a lot.
This was supposed to be just like the Optimal Optimus, just a downscaled knockoff of the original Transmetal 2 Megatron. But then they started showing stuff like they were sculpting stuff for it, new heads. This is the resin prototype, and I don't ever remember covering this on the show.
Yeah, we definitely did. We covered it really because I remember looking at these images, and I remember us all kind of being like, okay, like this is supposed to be their like legend scale Transmetal 2 Megatron, and we were trying to figure out like what part of the original toy like everything was based on, and it seems like it was just like the left arm, because the wings were different, the chest was different, the normal arm was different, the legs were different, like so much was different. And it was like they just use the dragon arm on the original. Like, right. I mean, it was crazy. It was crazy just how much was original on this smaller piece.
And so this is where my like kind of fan theory comes into play here. And I feel like I'm probably alone in this, but I wanted to bring it up to you. I feel like, because this was around the time shortly after this, that I remember these pictures of this Megatron coming up, this was around the time that we started seeing JX come out with their tease for a Megatron. And this was really the only link that I could put the two together on. But I feel like the people behind TransArt saw this and needed to make that next step up. So my theory is that JX and TransArt are connected because this one never saw the light of day. But you fast forward to the JX Megatron, and it's beautiful. And you look at all the steps that they went through, buying all these new machines, making sure all their independently sculpted pieces were perfect, and the paint was good and everything. You know what I mean? It just felt like they had the mind for it. And then now you see what TransArt is putting out, and you can skip ahead to the Strange Friend, and that's accurate. That is like that. I mean, I would have never thought
a scale standpoint, it's accurate. From a design standpoint, it's accurate. And like the only thing we had prior to this to go off of was a Build-A-Figure that is, as of today, and when Strange Friend was being designed, has been crumbling in people's hands. Mine's held together by super glue and drilled holes and metal pins and a G.I. Joe stand and a hole in the bottom of its foot to stay up. It's not like, it
takes some fucking work.
Right. I mean, you got to. But like the Build-A-Figure, is not really holding up very well. And Strange Friend is constructed so much differently than that Build-A-Figure is. Like, obviously it has way more moving pieces. It's masterpiece, but like, as far as just like the construction, it's so much different. And like Strange Friend had a little bit of a hiccup in the pistons and like the ball joints in the spine and all that other stuff being a little too loose, which TransArt did send out replacement parts. I'm sure you probably could have gotten them from whatever your retailer was or from TransArt directly. Neither here nor there at this point. I just put some clear tape around the edges that would be on the inside, and that was enough to keep the torso up. So
now, having the previous reputation that we've seen from TransArt and then seeing Strange Friend come out of nowhere, admittedly, when I first saw Strange Friend, I was like, this is cool, but it's a one-off. Because who really needs a transmutate if you don't have the transmetal line to go with it? It's and I didn't even think it was in scale because I didn't have anything to compare it to. But like, I remember thinking like, it's an oversized knockoff of the Build-A-Figure. Later come to find out that it's not. It's originally sculpted. It's assembled completely differently. It's built independently from what we've seen before, and it's a solid figure all around
with built-in lights, LEDs. Man, that's another thing in my opinion that's like really setting them apart in the game, I would say.
Right, and then shortly after that, we have this. I made sure to keep the date timestamp in here too. April 18th. They posted a not final resin prototype of their Transmetal Optimus. So fast forward until when did it release? Just the end of
June?
August? Was it June?
I don't know if it was June or August, to tell you the truth. Well, no, we just got it. So it was end of August.
Yeah, end of August. So from April to August, right?
Yeah.
So they showed off this shortly after their Strange Friend hit. I don't remember when it released because I didn't get it.
The Strange Friend came out, I want to say maybe it was like February, March, because I remember it was like at the beginning of the pandemic, like stateside, here in the US. And like a lot of us were like, some of us ordered from overseas, and like some of us got it from Agabus and things like that. Right. And I remember like some of us were just like, oh crap, are we going to get it? And then like also the fact that the Transmetal Optimus Primal was shown a month into the pandemic stateside. Granted, the pandemic had been going on, in China for quite some time at that point, for some months actually.
Right.
But I know I was still pretty blown away that we saw it April 18th and we got it at the end of August. That's a pretty quick turnaround. That's a 4-month production turnaround. They have to have their own factory
through a goddamn pandemic. No, like mine.
Yeah, like
you know what I mean.
They have to. I think they have to own their own factory
And
at
this
that point.
isn't. And if you go to the next picture, like this is the skateboard gorilla in its entirety. I don't know if this was like a render or if this was the actual physical property.
This was a Photoshop. This one was definitely a Photoshop.
Then the one next is the final. It's
correct.
Skateboard gorilla and the box. Like here it is now. It looks above and beyond what that Megatron looked like back when they teased that original resin prototype. So in my mind, I'm thinking that TransArt and JX are linked because since that Megatron has come out, the only thing we've seen from JX, and I'm not knocking them. I loved you, JX. Please put out that Tiger Hawk at your earliest convenience. But we've only seen pictures, a silhouette of Tiger Hawk, or a few silhouettes.
Right, a silhouette with some kind of like grayscale, like showing in the silhouette of the 3D renderings.
But TransArt is going full head of steam forward with this figure now out, and they've immediately shown their Cheetor, which they teased earlier.
Yeah, I was gonna say they teased the Cheetor. At least that's a hard copy head. They teased that whenever the Photoshop image of Skateboard Gorilla was circulating. And like you're saying they're linked. I'm gonna say that they are not linked. Just because I mean there may be, because JX is compromised of a couple of different third-party design teams, right? And I think some of the guys that worked on TFC toys and some other guys that maybe worked on this over here and that over there. So it's entirely possible that someone from TransArt may be on the team or may have been on the team, or something along those lines. Right. And JX is just that amalgamation, because they haven't put out a big video of what they are as a studio, as a team, as a company, and things like that, which is really cool and really interesting. JX has been super transparent, where TransArt, I can't find the first real thing on them other than they're making these great toys. But I don't think they're linked. And another reason I don't think they're linked is because TransArt used the chrome, and I don't think JX would have used. If there was some kind of correlation or link there, I don't think JX would have used chrome. I think they would have used that high gloss metallic paint.
Yeah, you think so? Well, I think there wasn't. Well, yeah, okay. I guess there was chrome on the original Transmetal 2 Megatron, the original toy, and it was just on the neck and the head of the dragon, right?
Neck, head of the dragon, the chest, which was the little arm shield.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that's right too. Okay.
Yeah, the wings, the entire wings that weren't the translucent bits.
Yeah, I guess that's true. I don't know. I always put the link together. Not always. I started putting the link together just because we hadn't seen, when JX was doing their Megatron, they'd come out with little updates. They'd tease pieces that they'd made. They'd tease putting assembling different pieces. They'd tease the features of the head and the lights and you know what I mean? And we haven't seen anything from their Tiger Hawk, but we've seen a lot from this TransArt that seems to be. And again, I don't have any of this stuff in hand. I'm just going from what it looks like and from what people have reviewed it. But it looks like the quality is there the same way that the JX is there, minus the die cast, I guess.
So, and not even the die cast. To me, die cast does not equal quality; it just equals sturdy.
No, but it would be sense? It would be inconsistent if they were under the same umbrella and only the Megatron got die cast, but the other figures from the same, you know what I mean, umbrella didn't for whatever reason.
Right. I mean, as far as a plastic feel, it is kind of comparable.
Right.
I definitely feel like the JX, I don't know, man. They're close. I'll say they're close.
Yeah. I don't know, man. It's interesting because JX spent a lot of money on all those new machines to put out that Megatron, to have a high quality product to put out, which a certain viewer may or may not have thrown around like a stepchild they didn't want. And now TransArt is coming out with some top quality figures, whereas before they didn't have this type of, this type of potential, or at least it wouldn't have been seen. There were some writings on the wall there, with their improvements to the Optimal Optimus and their ambition of sculpting new pieces, but I would have never pictured them putting out a product as quality as what the skateboard Gorilla looks like, or how well that Strange Friend, which is Transmutate, looks. And like now, like I'm looking at the renders of this Cheetor here, and this looks amazing. Like they've resculpted, or they've redone the design of the beast mode head. It looks like there's added articulation for the beast mode, like the front arms and the, you know what I mean? Like it looks.
The also just to kind of lay out something too, the chest, the robot mode chest is actually sculpted how it appeared in the show, which a little fun fact, some people may find neat, some people may be like, who cares? But it's based off of one of the early test shots that Brett actually has. Brett has a test shot of it with that aesthetic of a chest, like. Yeah. Between the hard copy that I have, the test shot that Brett has, and the final release of the original Transmetal Cheetor, there are 3 different chest hinge designs, and it's, I don't know, it's kind of crazy, but they definitely base the hinges off of that test shot for sure. And this takes those hinges and it uses those hinges. The sculpted texture on the chest definitely looks newer. Looks like it did in the show. The robot mode head, like you said, the beast mode head. You know, it's
so the robot mode head is the only thing I really have a gripe with, aside from like the tail. But like the tail doesn't even really bother me that much. But the robot mode head that we were teased looked more accurate. Like the nose was better proportioned. It looked like Cheetor right out of the show. And this one has like a little bit of a wider frame. It's a little bit sticking out a little bit farther. It's a little more flat. It's just not as accurate as we've seen. And I know this is just a render. But
yeah, I was going to say, I think that's just due to it being a render. Like we've seen the actual, like once we saw the pictures of the Transmetal Primal, we didn't like, I don't think any of that sculpt changed from that prototype to the final release. Like I'm still going to go based off of the proportions on the head that they teased, the hard copy head.
Yeah.
And say that that's going to be the proportions. This definitely looks like early renders, which I think is strange that they would show early renders after showing an actual sculpted piece, but
maybe because of the pandemic, they haven't been able to get like a full thing put together good
possibly
enough to show. Like there's many things that could be at play here, but I don't know, man. This has me excited, and like with the announcement of Kingdom coming out too, like I feel like a kid again. And not to bring Hasbro into the picture with TransArt, but like Beast Wars is like at the forefront again, kind of Transformers. And like I feel all that wishy-washy feeling inside my chest again. Like I feel like a kid. Like I'm excited to be a Beast Wars fan again, where it's not that it ever became stale, but it was like there's only so long you can hunt down the figures that have, you know, been discontinued before the excitement starts to turn into just completion. And then when completion is over, it's like, where do you go from here? But now it's like I have something to look forward to. Like there's potential in the air, and it's really exciting.
Right. Like with Kingdom, I know it's it's not like, for whatever reason, I feel like the general consensus from some people is that they want it to be like miniature masterpieces, you know, but I don't want that. I'm getting show accurate Beast Wars out of Masterpiece, and that's where I'd like them to be. I like the reimaginings of Kingdom, which, you know, like the Black Arachnia from Kingdom is definitely a quote unquote miniature masterpiece. The Cheetor is something new and different. It looks better than the Cyberverse battle armor boat ship toy thing. Looks better than the Universe Cheetor.
The Universe looked better than that Cyberverse boat thing.
I will not go that far. I refuse to go that far. That Universe Cheetor is hard to appreciate. I'll tell you that.
I can agree with you, but it had sculpted fur, whereas the Cyberverse one hardly had sculpted hands. You know what I'm saying? Like that thing was abysmal. Let's talk about the tail of this TransArt Cheetor, because at first I wasn't as upset as a lot of people seem to be. Not even upset, but like I wasn't as annoyed with it. But like after looking at it more, this could have been easily done a little bit better. And that's not to discredit them. Maybe it's where the budget ran out. Maybe it's just how they wanted it to work. You know what I mean? But like it looks almost like is it Reveltech? How Reveltech does things with those joints? Like it looks like that's together with those.
Well, they're hinges, but they kind of. I mean, just if you just kind of like zoom in on it,
straight up and down hinges.
It's just three. Yeah, it's just 3 vertical hinges.
Oh,
but it, and again, this is a rendering, and it could end up looking better once we see a physical product. But the tail was the very first thing that I noticed. A lot of people were talking about how the axe tip was facing the outside. I think that it'll still be able to turn around just because of the shape of it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't imagine like that is how it's going to be. But like, even if it is, I think I'm okay with that. Like, I think like if that's the sacrifice, right?
Yeah.
Like, I'm still going to buy it because it's going to be in robot mode, and the robot mode is cash money on this thing.
And that's something too, isn't it? Like, even if that's the sacrifice, I would rather that be the sacrifice than something drastic to the robot mode or the beast mode.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, this looks so good. And like, it shows again, picture 2, I believe it is, where the mouth opens and closes again. So they're still keeping that from their original hard copy, where the robot mode mouth will open and close.
Right, as does the cat head, and it can kind of rock back and forth, or side to side rather, as well. So you're getting all that. You're getting the the front cat legs have, it looks like some kind of outward movement, some rocker movement there at the shoulders.
Yeah.
Obviously the ankles have the articulation too. This is definitely exciting, man. Like I hope we get to see some more of Tiger Eagle from JX pretty soon.
Anything. Show me a toe.
Yeah.
Show me something.
like yeah, give me a head sculpt, something. But I'm also, because like I know that Tiger Eagle is going to be another pricey purchase, and like third quarter for Transformers just financially murders me.
That's true. That's true. If it wasn't for free healthcare up here, man, I don't think I'd be able to afford these masterpieces. So
no.
Thank you to the Moose God. But yeah, man, I think I don't know. I guess the only last thing I wanted to touch on is like, what do you think we can expect going forward? I mean, speculation is whatever. Like, what are they going to do next? What's the next masterpiece from TransArt? But like, I'm curious to see what their Predacon looks like. Like, I'm curious to see them do a Transmetal Tarantulas or a Megatron. You know what I mean?
Right. And there weren't, like, let's see, what was it? It was Tarantulas, Megatron, and Rampage. And then you had Optimus, Cheetor, Rat Trap, Depth Charge, and then Optimal Optimus.
Right.
So the fact that we've gotten 2 already, there's not a whole lot left to get. I feel like they'll do a Transmetal Rat Trap, and then maybe they'll tease a Transmetal Megatron. But like, I think that I think that they're doing well enough, at least on Skateboard Gorilla and maybe even Strange Friend. Like, and I can't speak for the rest of the world market, but like Agabus sold out of the Skateboard Gorilla. I don't know if they sold out of Strange Friend. They may have.
I've been waiting to pick it up just for my finances to align, because Megatron is coming up. Yeah, I've been waiting on getting it. And you know what? I think I am going to backtrack, and I am going to pick up the Strange Friend after all.
Yeah, dude. I think especially if we're going to be getting more season 2 stuff.
This shows me that you know what I mean? It's not a one hit and quit. Because I was worried, because their previous reputation, what they had done, I thought it was just going to be a one thing, an in and out sort of deal. But I don't know. This has proven me wrong, and again, it's got me excited. Like, it's got me.
I think it's because they found at least some success with basically like they kind of took a page out of all the other third party books, because now it's like everyone's just doing Masterpiece essentially. Yeah. So I think they were like, well, this is something we can do. This is something that Takara is not or will not get to for a long time, or ever. And I think they were like, you know what, we can capitalize on this. We can take, like, they played it super smart. Like, hey, what are the designs that are like as toys already really close to accuracy of the shows? Like, oh, Transmetal. We can just, the transformation scheme is right there for us. We can just add a couple of steps, do a couple of things, improve a couple of things, and like that's that. So,
and realistically, this is the smarter choice to go the Transmetal, and with JX the Transmetal 2 route, because it's very doubtful that Takara would take on that in a Masterpiece type scale for like season 2 and season 3. I've always thought that. I think you shared the same opinion, that they wouldn't touch season 2, season 3. So it's very smart for them to start here. And if Takara somehow drops the ball and doesn't want to do Beast Wars anymore to completion, then they can dip their toes into season 1 and finish that off. You know what I mean? But in this, they're in a safe lane, and Takara is just going to do season 1, I don't think they have to worry about them touching season 2 and 3 stuff. I don't know. It's interesting to be sure. But with that, I guess we'll wrap it up. We're not going to do any shout outs of any kind because except for like to Stasis Lock, obviously. Shout out to the crew. But yeah.
All the other shout outs, check the main show.
There you go. Yeah. Check out Stasis Lock at 6 p.m. CST. What is that?
Central Standard Time.
But yeah, that's it. That's it for us. We're going to wrap it up. That's Dakota and Tyler saying goodbye, and we'll probably see you in the next one. When it'll be, we don't know, but we know you'll tune in because you love the show.